Well, funny seeing you here. Rush the West Ham Network. Hope you're safe and well. It's Tuesday. West Ham play Everton tomorrow. Having both sides lost their first round match in the USA Summer Series. And then obviously we play Bournemouth at the weekend. You know, one of the things clearly coming out of Saturday was a clear indication that West Ham need another goalkeeper. And I don't think it's just Saturday. You know, I thought actually the Zurich Grasshoppers match last week, he looked so erratic. I don't understand what his hair looked. I mean, I can't complain about the hairstyle, but he looks like he's on a gap year. With that bleached blonde hair sort of growing out. But it's unsurprising. Several sources have quoted a senior source, probably the same senior source, saying that the goalkeeper position is going to be sorted. What was the actual words? Let me get the words right this time, bud. We are working hard on a new goalkeeper this week. Why end up for the last 5 weeks having not renewed Fabianski's contract? Considering we said we weren't going to renew it probably beginning of May, so it's not like they haven't had 9 weeks. 10 weeks to sort this out. You'd assume maybe a little bit before then as well. We want to get that sorted as a priority next, and we are very short in that position. The expression "no shit Sherlock" comes to mind with that. They have to get a wriggle on because I don't want them to go out and buy number 2. I want them to go out and buy number 1. In the same thing last year, you had 2 good goalkeepers vying for the same position, and if one wasn't playing well, they know full well that there's one behind them ready to take that position. That's what we need. I don't want us to go out and get some 21-year-old or some, one even at their book end of their career. I want someone who can come in and make a difference now. And we need to get them in now because, with a new goalkeeper, you need to sort out the defense. You need to get the communication, something which I don't think Areola is very good at. So anyone who I think he communicates will be better than Areola. I always find it slightly. For me, for someone so tall, he never commands his box well. Fantastic shot stopper. Can't deny the shot stopping. Distribution, when it's on point, it's very good, but it can be quite erratic as well. Now, hindsight's a great thing. I fully expected us to probably have. I think the plan was always to have sold a few players earlier, and then we could have been further down the process. Hasn't worked out like that. When's it ever worked like that with West Ham? We know it never works out like that. We should plan for the worst and expect be pleasantly surprised. Under promise to over deliver. Now, it does seem that we have a number of goalkeepers on the list, but unsurprisingly, according to several sources, Mads is the top dude. Now, what is interesting is not just Mads, but also West Ham, but also Newcastle interested in him. However, Sky Sports have reported last night that they're looking to make a move for Aaron Ramsdale in terms of Newcastle, but they still hold an interest in Mads Hermansen. Now, what is interesting about that is obviously they were going to get James Trafford, and James Trafford, that was lined up. Well, when do we talk to Ross from Cultaholic? When we played Newcastle, like 6 months ago or 5 months ago, something like that. That was all lined up and ready to roll, but Man City put in their buyback clause, and now obviously he's a Man City. I don't know if has he been officially announced? Yeah, I think so. Leicester, as we know, were heavily linked with the signing of Asmir Begovic, who I believe's gone to him. Has he gone to Leicester now? No, he's still currently a free transfer, but the idea being is he's going to go to Leicester, and the Leicester number 2 last year will move up to the Leicester number 1 spot. So basically, it's all been orchestrated for Mads to move on. Now, they went about 20-25 million quid for him. West Ham, unsurprisingly, are looking for a almost like what was it? What's the one? PayPal pay him 3 type thing, isn't it? You sort of a buy now, pay later type approach, where a loan deal with an obligation to buy at the end of that loan deal, with relatively simple conditions. In essence, it's money. It's money that's already going to be in the bank. It's like John Clare. We had John Clare on an obligation, and it passed his obligation, passed the games within 5 or 6 games, I think it was, and all we had to do was stay up for that money to obviously happen, and it did. We obviously have maybe an advantage over the likes of Newcastle if they decide to stop their talks with Ramsdale. I don't think they will do. I think he's a type of goalkeeper, I think, which seems to work for them potentially. Of course, our number 1 target, Mads. We had Suzuki as well from Parma, but I just feel Mads is more realistic. There's a desire for him to move by the player himself, whereas someone like Zion maybe not necessarily wants to leave Parma just yet. Now with Mads, as I said, we do have a slight advantage, and we have obviously Casper, the friendly goalkeeper coach, who worked with him at Bromby. We're led to believe he has recommended Mads as the man needed to come in at West Ham. And we were led to believe he was actually courting his name to the likes of Potter before even joining West Ham, when he was still at Bromby as the goalkeeper coach, having played with him and trained with him during his time at Bromby. We need to make it happen this week, don't we? Because next week we've got Lille at the end, and then it's Sunderland away the following week. We've got 2.5 weeks until the season starts. Unlike someone like Zion Suzuki, he can come in and he knows the Premier League. He can start running. There is the fly in the ointment, which is Michael Cooper from Sheffield United. Now, I'm speculating that is a backup deal if Mads doesn't happen, and almost as a smoke and mirrors type thing to force Leicester's hand to accept our terms. We do it all the time with West Ham. We look at, like, we're interested in a player. Oh no, we're going to look at this shiny thing, and then the other cut, and the club comes back calling. People do it to us all the time as well. But I think, I think Clarence, who dismissed, from their senior source, dismissed the Michael Cooper deal. I just don't know what we're waiting for. That's what I understand. We have got it. The pieces of the puzzle rarely sort of match up, but they all do. We've got a goalkeeper coach who's worked with the goalkeeper. We've got money to spend in this. We do have money to spend. We know that. We've got 30 million on the hip. For me, the goalkeeper needs addressing. Yes, the midfield needs addressing as well, granted. But for me, if the goalkeeper's good, goalkeeper's confident, the defence is confident, the midfield's confident, the strikers are. It all stems from the goalkeeper. If you've got a dodgy keeper, the defence are almost playing double duty. They're going deeper and deeper because they know the keeper can be dodgy. The midfield will be dragging back as well for that same reason. And then the forward lines will be dragging back and defending. The goalkeeper is crucial. Someone like Mads is 25, I think. He's 25, 26. Actually, how old is he? I've got his stats here. He is 25. Theoretically, he could be your next goalkeeper for 10 years. Fabianski, or 15 years. Fabianski retired at 40. I just don't. I don't see why. If Leicester have got all the pieces sorted, we've got the pieces sorted on our side. Why is this not happening? Why? It needs to happen. It needs to happen. Yes, that midfield we saw on Saturday was awful. But take those 3 out and put in, for the time being, not saying things that, but just for the time being, Paqueta, Alvarez, Potts as a 3. Straight away, that midfield looks completely different. You've got Paqueta, tenacious, creative. You've got Alvarez, good defender when he plays just on that position, that block, that CDM role. That's his role. Freddie, alongside him, can bring the ball forward as well. And then you can look at bringing in the right players and then moving that around. I think that midfield can be automatically changed by taking those 3 players who played last week and putting the 3 players in now. Plus, you've got the likes at the moment until they move on. The likes of, as I said, I think Lewis will go out on loan. You've got Preston. You've got more pieces of the puzzle. We need to get this goalkeeper in now. We need the goalie in, and I think Mads is perfect to come in. Absolutely perfect. He already has a relationship with the goalkeeper coach. He already knows the Premier League, and he's a good age. And I think 20 million is 2020. I think it's 2025. I think that's a cracking price for, in essence, 10 years. You could have 10 years on him. You know what I mean? It's a really, really. I think it's a really good deal. I really think it is. I'm sure people going to disagree with me down below. Yeah, they'll be wanting the midfield and as a priority. I totally get that. But for me, the goalkeeper needs sorting because it all hangs off that goalkeeper. When we've just look at the times we've had poor goalkeepers. Roberto. Actually, we usually have a bad run. I mean, Areola can win a game. He can win a game. However, he can also lose the game. I want a consistent goalkeeper. I don't want someone who's going to be. That's why that's why I liked Fabianski. That Flapianski sort of mantle. It didn't very rarely where we've had a situation now with Areola where it's clear that he needs some competition, and it might and actually having Mads and Areola or Suzuki or whatever and Areola may bring out the best of both of them. It might not necessarily mean that Mads automatically becomes the number one choice. You have two very good goalkeepers competing, and I think that's what worked really well when we had Fabianski and Areola at the top. And and they're both when Fabianski was dropped, he was pissed off. When Areola was dropped, he was pissed off, and they should be because they're professionals, and that's what you want. Anyway, rant over. We need the goalkeeper now. Sort it out. Want a goalkeeper in time for this Sunday? That'll be amazing. Because then he's got 2 full weeks to sort, to work with the defence. Because it looks like, that back five that started against Man United, that's pretty much going to be our back five. You're going to have Diouf, Aged, Kilman, Todibo, Wan-Bissaka. Those five. That's our starting five, isn't it? Really. Unless maybe someone puts in for Aged, but I can't see them putting in for Aged now, unless they want to spend £20 million. He's got the number 5 shirt now. Kilman's got the number 3 shirt. That and Todibo's we signed permanently now, so those 3 are there. Wan-Bissaka's there and Diouf's there, so I don't think there's any changing in the guard there. So sorting out the goalkeeper, it will put less pressure on the defence if they are sure they've got a guy who's not going to be temperamental. He's not going to be. I just think it's time to move on. I really do, and I think a really good goalkeeper is worth his weight in gold. When you look at the successful times, under West Ham, he's been good goalkeepers. In the 80s, Phil Parkes, was outstanding. When we in the FA, we had guys like Ludovic McCloskey. We had, Robert Green. We got to the FA Cup finals and stuff like that. Even when we got promoted, we had the guys like UC Escalainen involved and people like that. Good goalkeepers, solid goalkeepers is what you need. Dependable goalkeepers. Anyway, rant over. Speak later, motherfuckers, and I'll see you. Oh, didn't mean to press that button. Sorry, I mean to press that one. There we go. Anyway, take care, everyone. Stay safe, stay warm, and keep the faith. Much love. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.